let's talk about this floating dock, the floating pier that the Americans are building in Gaza, because I told you guys already 5 months ago, I produced the mini documentary. And I told you what Gaza is. What is this war about? It's about the Americans solidifying their control over the gas in the Mediterranean, along with Israel, and providing gas to Europe, because they signed a deal with Europe, remember? They've cut Iran out of the game. They've cut Russia out of the game with the sanctions. And now they basically got rid of Beirut port in Lebanon. They got rid of Syria's infrastructure, and Gaza is now under their control. And it's also about countering China. Again, go watch the mini documentary, because I can't condense it in one go. I just want to show you once again how shady this whole thing is, okay? And it just further confirms everything I've been telling you. This is from the BBC, okay? So look what they say here. You're going to love this. This is how the United States military plans to construct a pier and get food into Gaza, right? Because the United States military, you know, the ones that are supplying the bombs that are killing Palestinians, their first priority when they wake up in the morning is they say, how can we feed the Palestinians that we're killing, right? Because when you murder someone, you feed them at the same time. That makes total sense, right? So it says here that more than 1,000 American troops are expected to participate in the operation, although the Pentagon says there will be no boots on the ground. Wow. No boots on the ground. Yeah, they're going to levitate. I'm levitating. What are they going to do? They're going to hover above the beach? What a joke. What an absolute joke. They think we're stupid or something? No boots. They already have boots on the ground. They have special forces, Delta Force, already fighting in Gaza. I've read an account from a medic who was kidnapped by Israelis, tortured by Israelis, and tortured by Americans in Gaza. What is this? No boots on the ground. I mean, I'm shocked. I'm just shocked. How can you say that there will be no boots on the ground? You should be saying there are already Americans fighting in Gaza. I don't mean in the IDF. I mean actual American troops in American uniforms fighting there. Delta Force. How is this not mentioned there? Scandalous. Let's continue. To help achieve that, the United States has partnered with a little-known private firm called Fogbo, which is run by who? You guessed it, former military and intelligence officials. So basically, an extension of the military itself, right? The goal is to deliver aid equivalent to 2 million meals a day to Gaza, where the United Nations has warned that famine is almost inevitable without urgent action. Yes, well, the goal is to deliver 2 million meals a day to Gaza. Yeah, just like the goal was to defeat Hamas, right? Look how that's panning out. And also, who the hell are you to defeat Hamas? Not even in your own country. Next up, how will the US set up the pier? US Army vessels set sail on Saturday and Monday to take equipment to the Mediterranean. Again, I just want you to picture, if your geography is not doing too well, I'll pull up the map for you. And I'm sorry, I have to go I have to go on a rant here and on a tangent because of how infuriating this is. Okay? The United States is over here. The Mediterranean is there. Okay, what the hell? What kind of business does anyone in the United States have sailing to the fucking Mediterranean and going to Gaza? What business do they have? Who authorized this? Who gave you permission to do this? Who the fuck are you? Again, with this imperialist God complex. According to the Pentagon, the plan includes two main components which need to be assembled: a floating dock made up of steel segments and a 2-lane 548-meter causeway and pier. Okay, the causeway will be composed of interconnected 12-meter steel pieces linked together and attached to the shore. Don't worry if that sounds like gibberish to you. If you're not too familiar with construction, there's a graph, or rather a sketch down below, which I'll show you in a second. But it makes sense logistically and from an engineering standpoint. Very beautiful. I'm sure they spent a lot of time, sitting down and organizing and sketching up the J-lots, as they call them. Great. What does that have to do with Gaza? You know. So they're going to have this causeway assembled at sea and driven into the beach, okay? So they put this thing together, and then it goes into the sand. Do you understand? I don't have anything with me on the table to picture that, but imagine this artificial thing. It's just driven into the sand, and then they establish a foothold, and it's you know, literally a foothold into the beach. And then the funny thing is how they say allowing U.S. forces to avoid setting foot on Gaza, like again, as if that we don't already have hundreds, if not thousands, of U.S. troops in Gaza already. The U.S. is supporting its ally, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we know who the terrorists are here. So as I said, they call them J-lots, and this is how it's going to work. Now, this is, of course, the propaganda, right? You don't actually believe this. Please let me offer you the disclaimer and tell you that this is a bunch of rubbish. This entire article is rubbish. The only good information, the only viable information that they give us is Fogbo. But I haven't gotten yet to the exciting part, to the real info. Because guess who controls this firm that is helping the US military? Okay? So Fogbo is led by Sam Mundy, a former lieutenant general in the Marine Corps, who previously commanded forces in the Middle East. Okay, so he's an invader. And we have Mick Mulroy, a former CIA paramilitary officer. Paramilitary officer, again, basically meaning he's an invader. All right, the CIA, in case you don't know this, they have their own paramilitary units that invade countries like they did in Afghanistan. And he was also Assistant Secretary of Defense for the Middle East. So basically, we have a spook from the CIA and someone who's invaded the Middle East before with the Marine Corps, who run a private firm that is now going to be tasked with feeding people in Gaza. I mean, you really have to be a moron to believe this. You really got to be such a sucker and so naive to buy this crap, like as if their primary concern is to come and help and nourish the people of Gaza, who they are butchering. And then, of course, they tell you that essentially the Israelis will run outer security to prevent crowds of civilians reaching the beach. God forbid that Gazan civilians, go on their own fucking land. God forbid. And to make the area safe. All right, safe. Yes, I'm sure. The distribution will be the responsibility of local unarmed Palestinians. What does that mean? Who determines what is an unarmed local Palestinian? Because there's a whole lot of them that have already been massacred by the Israelis. And I haven't even begun to talk about the Flower Massacre 2.0 and 3.0, which some of you might have heard of, because Palestinians who are unarmed, who have done literally nothing, are being murdered by the Israelis, massacred, just for waiting for food. So when I see that, and I'm going to show you the images after this segment, which are really going to make you vomit because of how sick and brutal they are. I just don't understand. You're murdering Palestinians, you're dropping bombs on them, but you want to feed them. Palestinians who wait for food get killed, but you want to distribute food to Palestinians. How does any of this make sense? It doesn't make sense because it's rubbish. The real plan here, which I disclosed to you, is twofold. They want to steal the gas in Gaza, and they want to build a canal that is a rival to the Suez Canal. Now, that's not really going to help them because Yemen are at the bottom, making sure that you shall not pass. Now, the thing is, this pier, this floating dock, do you know it's going to take 2 months to build? So this beautiful ideal that they're trying to sell you, like, oh yeah, man, we're going to give Palestinians 2 million meals a day. Really? That's great. How do you distribute them? Because, yeah, you've got 2.3 million Palestinians who are displaced. It's in a war. So even if hypothetically these were really, it was really Mother Teresa descending down onto Gaza with 2 million meals in her hands, how is she going to distribute them to all these people that are scattered in the strip? Where are the logistics involved in that? Is there a meeting point? If you go to the meeting point, do you get killed by an Israeli gunship or a helicopter? I mean, so many questions unanswered. But again, this takes 2 months. 2 months to build. And again, another tell of why this article is propaganda is because they keep mentioning, this is the third time they say no US troops will set foot in Gaza. So that's 3 times they're repeating this rubbish to you from the Pentagon. This is the tell. It's the tell, right? It's how you can distinguish, or rather set apart, the information from the BS. There's good information in here, but the main thing is to sell it to you. To say, yeah, the Americans, they're just coming to help, while they drop the bombs. They just want to help. I mean, really scandalous. And the Israelis have taken it upon themselves in their almighty benevolence and grace to publish a video, a preview of this construction site. Because again, let me remind you that no one invited the Israelis to build anything in Gaza. This is not their land. And no one invited the Americans to build anything in Gaza. No one wants a pier. No one wants a floating dock. No one wants your food. Is that clear? No one wants your stinking food. No one wants anything to do with Israelis or anything to do with Americans. All they want is to be left alone. But in any case, I'll show you the video of this marvelous construction site. How generous. How generous. So there you go. There you go. And remember, when they say no US troops, that doesn't mean that, first of all, they're lying, but you should also remember what contractors are. The United States, this is really the epitome or the epitome of capitalism, is that they have done things like Blackwater, where they get people who have been in the military to sign a contract, and then they send them in to fight for the US military, but they're not wearing the fatigues or the combat fatigues, the uniform of the US military. Okay, but they're still fighting for the US military, so they're basically mercenaries. All right? But again, just to be 100% clear with you, they already have US troops, and they're going to send more US troops now, and they're going to send contractors as well. So this is the United States military setting up a foothold in Gaza Beach with the Israeli military under the guise, the pretense of distributing food. The real goal here is to establish a military presence so they can steal the gas. Mark my words. Mark my words. I told you this was coming. I told you this was coming. Again, those of you who've seen the mini documentary, and I'm going to show you the links again now in a second, those of you who've seen it, and there's a reason that these videos went viral. Okay, this one on Twitter alone got 2 million views, where I explained the gas and what how they're trying to steal it in Gaza. And then in the second one, I talked about the canal they're trying to build. Okay, this is part 1, and again, I'm posting it in the comment section and in the chat, so you can go and watch it. And this is the real objective. Okay, this is the real objective. This is what it's always been about. Remember also, the Ben Gurion Canal is something that the United States and the Israelis cooked up in 1963, okay? Why did they do this? They did this because the Egyptians they dared to nationalize the Suez Canal, okay? So I'll pull it up on the screen again so you can see it. Again, those of you who don't know, the Suez Canal connects the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea, right? So before, if you wanted to ship goods, you got to go all the way around Africa. But then they dug the Suez Canal, and it goes through here, through Egypt. Egypt nationalized this, and then France, Britain, and Israel attacked them. But afterwards, in 63, these are classified documents that came out in the 90s. The Americans thought of a plan to detonate 520 nuclear bombs in the Negev desert here. And so that they could dig a rival canal, okay? And where does this pass through? Gaza. It goes right through Gaza. Because Gaza is on the border with Egypt, right? You can't dig the canal through Egypt. What's the nearest thing? How do you save money and cost and time? You go through Gaza because it's right next to it, okay? It's the closest point. So like I said, it would go through here. This is how the canal would go, the Ben Gurion Canal. So these are the two things, the gas and the Ben Gurion Canal. Very important to remember these. These are the real reasons that they are in Gaza, and no wonder that the firm helping them is run by a spook and someone from the Marine Corps. How underwhelming. Are any of you even surprised? Honestly, are any of you surprised?